Executives are overweight and are not having any sex. You heard it here first. Stick around for the next 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes, and we're going to tell you a story about both of us and how being overweight actually turned your life upside down, because there's things going on in our careers where career climbing, check, we got a good result there. We're getting the right reward. We're getting the right recognition that we need in our corporate life, in our work and what we do. So we love it. We're actually getting good progress with our family. We've got good connections and we get to hang out with them at weekends and we actually enjoy some of that stuff. This might be you. Is this you? Then this is the place for you to be, to listen to this, because you've actually found yourself in this really tricky state. And we both know, because we know what it's like to be 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight because of the life we chose around when we were climbing that corporate career. We were on planes, we were living in hotel rooms, we were eating bad foods, we were sacrificing the career, sacrificing ourselves for the work we were doing, and just enjoying all the wrong things and creating an environment for ourselves, which meant we got a long way back. So not that we want to go back, by the way. So let me rephrase that. We've got a long way to go. So we're going to step forward. I am so excited to welcome today Genta, who's with us from Boston in Massachusetts. Love that, because that's Beantown, where some of my family live up there. I'll be there for Thanksgiving, right around the corner from you. So I'm super excited to be on the plane next week. We are going to be talking about living your most gorgeous life today. Genta, hello, how are you?
Hello, hello. I am so happy to be here with you, James. I'm doing wonderful, and I'm really just ready to get started and talk about all the great and amazing things, and really empower people to live their most gorgeous life.
Awesome. We're going to talk about that. So you have some catchphrases. We're going to throw those catchphrases in here. We were talking before we came on air, but hold on that. So here look, this is the thing. I'll share my quick story. My quick story was exactly that. Going into corporate life, and certainly living in America, when I moved from the UK, portion sizes were bigger, but that didn't stop me eating all the foods. And so I definitely noticed over the period of my career, when I wasn't going to the gym, that I was eating all those wrong foods and creating this unstable environment. And that's what led to me kind of eventually deciding I got to do something in my life to change this. And that's recomposition of my body, right? Because it was just blubber. I looked more like a walrus flapping around on the ocean as I did, a lean, mean fighting machine. That just wasn't the thing. Now I feel a lot better. I'm 7 days in the gym, or if I'm not in the gym, I'm out on the streets pounding those tarmac and the trails. So we're going to talk about how you can get to that point. And Genta has a similar story. So why don't we start there? Because I want people to get to know you, because some of the people watching will know me and that they will have seen me before, but they will not have heard of you. And I want you to tell them a little bit about why do you care about this so much? What's your personal story that could connect somebody straight to this message?
Yeah, I love that, and I love getting this question because this is so personal for me. So I want to get a little personal here, James. Like, can we do that? Can we get a little personal
That's
here?
good. Go for it. Go for it.
Okay. So, as a kid, I grew up in a very small town in Albania, and I would talk about my childhood, and it doesn't really bring up these happy thoughts. I
Hmm.
grew up in a household where domestic violence was very prevalent. It felt like it was almost an everyday thing, and I've blocked a lot of those memories for myself. But one of the things that I really remember is my parents, every summer vacation, they would send me and my sister to my grandmother's farm. And I remember, just being a kid again, and not having to play this referee, right, in a fighting match. I got to hang out in the vegetable garden and like milk the cows and ride horses and make new friends. And I kid you not, we even made dolls, okay, from corn husks. So my sister, my cousins, and all of the friends that I met at the farm there. And so, that experience for me was just so healing. And looking back on it right now, I can say that, like nutrition and our environment, right, has so much to do with our health. And so for me, the reason why I do what I do, and why I have this phrase, like we were talking about it a little bit earlier, and I said my mission is to empower people to make health and joy their everyday companions.
Say that again. Say that one more time.
My mission is to oh my gosh, my mission is to empower people to make health and joy their everyday companions. And so that's
Awesome.
what
Yeah.
I
And,
believe.
and I love how you've tied that back to this really healthy reminder of your childhood, despite the difficulties of your own family home. that you're able to look back at that and go, well, I knew when things were really good for me.
Hmm.
And that was being in the country, eating fresh fruits and vegetables, getting engaged with nature. And so you had this healthy reminder, but I want to connect people to, well, what, if that's all great, what was the difficulty? So can you perhaps take us, maybe ask you a question. What is it that you see? Because you worked in corporate environments and you're familiar with corporate environments, you know what goes on. What do you see is the question, but I want you, before you tell us the answer, I want you to tell us your story about what triggered you to make sure that you could now pay this forward. What are the mistakes that people are making that you see inside their careers, especially as it relates to those two things, health and joy? So I want you to answer that question. But just before you do, talk about your own problems and your own difficulties and the struggles that you've overcome, because I want people to be able to connect to that, because you've now got this healthy reminder from a childhood, but there was also some pain back there too. So tell us a little bit about the problems that you've recently overcome.
Yeah, and it's honestly a continuous journey. Like and I'm still in it to this day. It still continues for me. I've found a lot of my I don't know if worth is the right word that I even want to say, but I would classify myself as a very ambitious person, and I've always wanted to climb this corporate ladder and be at the top of the top and say, hey, I did this. Like I did this for myself, and
Yeah.
as if I have something to prove to someone, right? But I think that sort of mindset led me to a lot of unhealthy habits, such as, I was working 12-hour days,
Wow.
forgetting to eat, breakfast or even lunch. Like I would be in front of my computer and it'd be like, oh my gosh, it's 4 o'clock. I haven't had anything to eat or drink yet. And I'm not saying I'm perfect
I
now.
have a
Like those
question.
things still happen.
Had you remembered to go to the bathroom? Some people forget to do that
Exactly,
too.
right? Well, you know what? If you're not drinking any water, you're just not even going to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I ended up gaining 35 pounds. And
Whoa.
because of that, my mindset just wasn't there. My skin was breaking out. I didn't feel good about myself. I wasn't fitting into my cute clothes anymore. So now it's like I got to go up a size or like go shopping for that. And then the intimacy with my husband too, just, I just didn't have the energy. I would be working for 12-hour days, and the last thing I want to do is like come home and have sex with my husband, like it's so a lot of that just came, and I feel like one day maybe you'd even slap me in the face a little bit. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I think if I can be very honest, like there was something that someone very close to me, that we were out at hiking, I think it was, and they said, "Wow, you really let yourself go, huh?"
Whoa.
And that hit me because it's a person that's very close and near and dear to my heart. And so they weren't coming from a place of being mean or malicious, but it's like, wow, like I see how much like this has taken a toll on you. And so I think that was that demarcation line for me, where I was like, okay, I gotta do something about this, because if
Yeah.
other people are noticing it, it's not just the physical like appearance, but it's also like the emotional aspect of it and how
So
I was feeling.
yeah, I'm going to jump in. So because you said some important things, and I want people to connect to that because they can probably resonate with some of the items around working long hours. So you're overworking. And I did a video earlier in the week to talk about not just overworking, but you can overdo something. So it could be that you are just over focused on a particular part of your life, and that has an impact somewhere else, because it's not about balance either. It's just about, we are just one being. So if we're solely focused on one thing, we're probably not focused on some of the things that move the needle for us or get great results. So that was one thing you said, but you also said that you were determined around your career. So you were solely focused on this climbing the ladder, and you connected to that some sort of self-worth issues around, if I can, then this will happen.
Mhm.
So you're kind of demonstrating to yourself and to others maybe that there's some kind of validation for the successes that you've achieved. And I think that's my story too. And I think it's other
Yeah.
people's story. Are there any other mistakes that you're seeing now from the clients that you're working with? Maybe in some of the organizations that you get to have the privilege of going inside, what other things do you see people are doing? And you're like, that's what I got to fix. That's the stuff that if I can find a way to communicate with this individual, and not necessarily in the telling the truth way that your friend did, even though I'm a big supporter of telling the truth. Yeah,
I love feedback.
I had
Tell
the
me
privilege
more
of telling a friend. Yeah, I had the privilege of telling a friend recently, your boss doesn't care about you,
Mm.
but you are going to continue to suffer if you want your boss to care about you, because they don't. That's not their love language. Theirs is about achievement and success. So if you're achieving a success, don't expect them to say thank you then either, because
Yeah.
it's all about them. That's a very different perspective. But yeah, what else do you see that people are unhealthy habits that put them into this, the opposite of joy, struggle, and then this opposite of health, which is actually dis-ease? What do you see that's going on?
Yeah, I like to think of it in the sense of from a holistic perspective. I think a lot of us, like even for me during those times, like I tried my best to, eat healthy and go to the gym and work out, but just taking a step back and looking at it, my body was just in a fight or flight stage. It was always like my cortisol levels were always elevated. I was always under that stress. And so even though I was eating the right foods, right, it wasn't doing anything for me. If
Yeah.
you think about it, um, back in the day, right? Like if you were being chased by a tiger or something, like you'd want to run. Like the last thing that you're thinking about is like digesting your food. You want to get out of there as quickly as possible. And so the body doesn't know the difference between, you're getting chased by a tiger or you just got, a stressful email from one of your clients that
Yeah.
you don't know how to respond to now. And so, I was eating all the right things, but because I was under that mental stress and that level of like elevated cortisol, my system just was not digesting the food that I was eating properly. And so that's the thing that I see, now with entrepreneurs. We start the day off like by rushing, right? Oh, I'll get a granola bar and then I'll have a quick little yogurt, right? And then for lunch, I'll have a salad, at my desk, right? And I'm guilty of this too. I did still do it to this day sometimes. But I think that's what we're doing. We're not separating our health, right, from all of these other responsibilities. Like we're doing so much and yet we're putting our own health last, and it's really starting to have an impact, especially
Now,
on our.
let me test, because I'm not the expert in this area. So what I'm hearing is we're flooding our body. Our glands are in overdrive. We're flooding our body with these hormones that are actually blocking off digestion, and they're blocking off our ability to be healthy because we're constantly worried about the next interruption from our boss or the next client issue or the next customer wrangle. And even before we came on air, not to expose anything, but you were telling me about the stresses of the day. And it's like,
Exactly.
yeah, wow, if it's all hands on deck all day, every day, yeah, sure. There's likely to be some unhealthy stuff going on. And I always say you can see it. You can see people's
Mhm.
habits and their deliberate practice by looking at them. We can see that with you. We met recently,
Yeah.
and I could see that you have healthy practices, right? I don't have to know that the story. I just knew in this moment, oh, she's got healthy practices.
Mhm.
Yeah, and when we got to talk, then you got to tell me a little bit more about what you were doing, and then also I get that story. Okay, so let's move forward a little bit. So tell us about the journey for you personally, and then how we could pay that forward for others. What do you think the things that people are that they need to get a grip of now? You kind of give us a recipe, if you like, for success. That you take us from this 35-pound extra person that you were to where you are now. And what were the things that you had to put in place? And if other people took on this information, they would get it done.
Yeah. I think we complicate it so much, and I think there's so much information out there, and I think that's the problem. There's like an information overload, right? You should do this, you should follow this diet, try keto, cut out carbs, lower sugars, right? But it's so much more than that. I feel like, we need to go back to the basics, and going back to the basics really means, hey, let's cut out, processed foods as much as we can. When we go grocery shopping, let's make sure that and I like to give people these tips, right? So shop the outer aisles anytime you're going grocery shopping. For your nutrition, shop the outer aisles. That's where you're going to find your whole
I,
foods and
I,
your
I got to
greens.
say this though, it depends on the store, but yes,
True, true.
there's some stores where you can go to now where they masquerade that you could shop
Yeah.
outside and you'd be eating the whole 30 diet or something. The reality is the produce isn't very good. So
Mhm.
yes, I think that's good, but make sure that the reputable vendor actually has the foods on the outside of the store that
Yeah,
work.
like
Yeah,
those are gonna be
I,
your
I
whole
think that's
foods,
important.
your fresh fruits, your vegetables, your lean proteins, right? And then the more you go into the aisles, that's where you're gonna find your sodas, your chips, your boxed stuff, right? And I'm not saying all of that stuff is bad. The majority of it is definitely bad, but you definitely want to get into the habit of actually reading what's on the nutrition label. Companies are getting so smart these days that the front label, like the front packaging, you see made with real extra virgin olive oil, right? And then you're looking at the ingredients and you're like, where's the olive oil in this? Because I see sunflower seed, this, and all of these names that you can't really pronounce. So we think we're making the right decisions a lot of the times, but there's so much misinformation out there that, again, I think we just really need to go back to the basics of eating like real food that Mother Nature so abundantly provides for
Yeah,
us.
it's taking it back to that childhood experience you had in the summers of being close to where the fruits and vegetables were, made a difference to how you were energized, had a difference to how you were able to fuel your system, and also stay away from the things that may have been, more readily available inside the box, inside the pantry. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think we've gotten so away from actually knowing where our food is sourced from or where it comes from, right? We go to the grocery store, we pick up a tomato or a cucumber or an apple, but we don't know how it actually got there. We don't know, how it was grown, how, what sort of pesticides or what sort of chemicals were actually put on these, foods that
Yeah.
a lot of the times they're prematurely picked. And so they put all of these chemicals on them so that they can actually look like a tomato, right? And then you bite
Yeah.
into it and you're like, man, this has no taste, and then
Yeah.
wonder why.
So it's good, right? So you've given us some ideas. I think people know. So it's kind of what's the difference here? How are they going to make this come alive for them? Because I think people do know. Yeah, I should shop around the outside of the store in a reputable place. Yeah, I should stay away from unregulated labels.
Yeah.
So understanding, when I read that there's got natural flavors in it, I should
It
just be
works
reading,
fine for you.
excuse my language, I should be, it's a chemical S storm.
Yeah.
We gotta stay away from that stuff. And so I think people know that, but they still consume it. But what are the things that are going to be the triggers or the cues for them to actually see some benefit from that? So what do you layer on top of that? So it's good to say basics, but
Yep.
what are the one or two things that you would say to somebody watching this right now, and because they want to have more sex? Remember that we've just sold them on this a promise. You're going to lose weight and you're going to have tons of intimate, incredible, energetic sex. So that's what we're selling here, right? So tell me, how do I get that?
Well, listen, you got to be able to see yourself as that person first, right? If you can't really envision yourself being this different version of yourself where you are energetic, you are lively, you are nourishing your body with all of the right nutrition, whether it's on your plate or off your plate. And
Yep.
so again, going back to that basic idea of, do I actually see myself as this person? And if I don't, well, then maybe we got to do some work there to establish that vision for somebody before then they can actually take that next step and put that into work, right? Like, I'm not very religious or don't read the Bible, but it says the world was created by thought first, right? Somebody had a thought, right? And then it was created. And so we have to have that vision in our mind that I can do this and I can see myself as this person. So I think that's really where it starts. And you also got to be committed, right? You got to be committed to yourself. When we say I love myself, it's easy to say that, but do you like are you proving that with your actions? Are your actions aligned with like or the language that we use?
Awesome. Yeah, I start every single client off, and you may do this too when you sit down with them, is if we are not in alignment with who we really are, we're putting a mask on or we're trying to be somebody else, and I think about my corporate career, vast amounts of it, I was wearing a mask, trying to please somebody else,
Hmm.
not actually trying to do the thing that I needed to do or the best work that I could possibly do. I now know that this is a much better stream of activity for me to be involved in because I can do the stuff that's more in alignment with who I am. And so I think that vision piece is absolutely crucial. So I'm glad you said that. And then I like the commitment piece because it plays to all kinds of things around discipline and willingness to play the long game and go all in on yourself and not make excuses and not bring these heartfelt justifications up around, well, it's just one glass of wine or it's just another cake, right? We talked about donuts and French fries and cake before we came on air. And how you handle that for you personally has to be in alignment with who you are. I think that's so crucial. So they're good things. How about somebody you've worked with? Maybe tell us a little bit about a client success story. Somebody who you can share with us exactly. You met them in kind of transformation part A, and they needed to come across the bridge with you. Where did they end up? Maybe tell us that.
Yeah. I want to start out by saying, just to piggyback a little bit about what you said. I think the body, and I fully believe this, has the ability to heal itself
Mm,
if only we get out of its own way, right? Like if we get sick or if we get a cut somewhere, we're always trying to reach that level of balance because it knows, our body
yeah,
innately knows how to reach that. And sometimes, again, by our lifestyle, the choices that we make, the foods that we eat, that's how we get in the way of it. And if we just kind of get out of its own way, then it'll do what it does best, and that is to be in balance and to flourish and to be vibrant at the end of the day and have longevity and vitality. So I worked with one of my clients. We finished we did a 6 month program together, and what I do is my program is based off of over 25 years of research that have been done on the longest living people in the world right now, called the Blue Zones. And so I've created a framework called the 4 Gates to 100. And
wow,
the reason why I called it that is because I believe there's 4 different aspects in our life that will, if in balance, right, if we really take care of these things, that will actually enable us to live to 100. And
yeah.
so this is the program that I went through my client, and we touched on mindset, we talked about eating wisely, movement, and then also community and relationships. I think when we
And so
balance,
I know, are they the four? They're the
those are
four.
the four. Yep, those are the
Yeah.
four.
So let's say them one more time because I want people. Okay, pen and paper ready. What are the
Yep.
four?
The
What are the
four.
four
So
things?
mindset, eating wisely, so over that nutrition, movement, getting enough exercise, moving our body, and then community, like how close are we with our community? How vibrant are our relationships? I think that has a lot to do with our health.
How now tell me this. I have not seen this documentary, but I've been told there is a documentary on Netflix right now about the Blue Zones. Have you seen that?
I have, and you know what's funny? I was
How closely do
waiting for
your
that to come
four
out.
marry to that documentary? Is it close or is it yours slightly different? Or are there things in there as well that were slightly different?
Yeah, so they're very close to it. They the research on the blue zones, they've come out with, I think it's 9 different aspects that are all
Wow.
similar, of all of these individuals around the world that have enabled them to reach 100. And when you look at these people, they're not strapped to their bed, or they can't get up. I mean, they can run laps around you, and they're 80, 90, 100 years old, and they're not going to the gym and pumping weight and pick things up, put them down, right? Like, they're not doing any of that. They're closely tied to their community. If they're drinking, they're having a glass of wine with their family, right? It's a celebration, and
Yeah.
everything is so intentional. And that's what I really love about it. So yeah, if you haven't seen the documentary,
No, I
Dan
haven't. No.
Gardner he's one of my idols. I love him
Isn't
so
it? Is it?
much.
It's called Live to 100 or something like that.
Yeah,
Do
How
you,
to Live to 100.
How to
Yeah.
Live to 100. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we have no affiliation. No one's going to pay us
No
for
affiliation.
recommending that. You'll
Yeah.
just be one of many millions who get to see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy it. Yeah. I now I will. I've stay back for a while to learn that, but I'm happy to go and take a look. If it means anything for longevity, and also if I'm following some of the things that you're going to teach me as well, then I'll be around till I'm 100, and I'll take that. That would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's certainly possible. And there's proof of it, right now, that other people are doing it. And it brings me back to the work that I did with one of my clients just a few months ago. You know, I remember having a conversation with her, and she'd really literally tried everything in the book to lose weight and actually maintain it and sustain it long term.
Yeah.
Anything from like the craziest stuff that you can possibly think of, she's probably done it, whether it's
So
like,
what were those results? Let's talk about those results. Maybe we interrupted you in the middle of telling me the story. So what were those results for your clients?
yeah, so one of the most important things for her was she has a 4-year-old son, and she wanted to be able to actually run around and enjoy, his time, and not feel exhausted, like chasing him around. And so in the 6 months that we worked together, she ended up losing over 40 pounds.
Wow.
And one of our goals is to actually go skiing and snowboarding this winter. So she's like, I got to get back on those skis. So I'm super, super, super excited for her. But it's not just the physical aspect of it, but it's also that mindset shift for her that it's like, yeah, this is possible for me. Like I can see myself, doing this. And
Yeah.
when we started our journey together, one of the things that I asked her to do was, hey, write a letter to yourself, and write a letter to yourself where you're going to let go of this identity that you've held on for so long, right? Like that fat person, or like, I'm just chubby. This is what I'm supposed to be, like all these names that are just so disempowering. Um, and then I said, hey, you can either burn it or you can rip it up, because we're
Yeah.
letting that go. We're jumping into a brand new identity, and we're going to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I always like Bob Proctor has this phrase. I'll probably butcher it, but it goes along the lines of, if you can paint the picture in your mind, then you can have it in your hand.
Yes, I
And
love
so
that.
it's having that clear visualization of what it is that you're attaining or going to attain, and not having that negative conversation with yourself that says, this is too hard, I can't do this, you're not good enough. You and I talked before about, what does it feel like to be 35, 40, in our case, we're 30, 40 pounds overweight. And we both agreed, that we actually say to ourselves that we're not good enough, that we don't want to look in the mirror, that we shied away from those things. So yeah, there were times here's the good news. I have pictures of me at that time, naked. I don't know if the world needs to see that, but it's always a reminder to me that, I don't want to go back to that place. So
Mhm.
I find that as that painful place as a positive driver. But the other positive driver for me is, how much freedom and peace of mind can I get? So focus on that visual, the freedom of, I get looked at so weird. Okay, I have an 8-year-old son and I'm chasing him around the park, and I'm the wrong side of 50 now, or the right side of 50, depends how you look at it. But I see other dads and I can see the jealousy and the envy because they can't run. Like there'll be 200, 300-pound guys who can't race with their 3, 4, 5-year-old kid. And I have a kid who doesn't stop running all day. He'll run a marathon, no problem, every day. And so it's important that I stay physically fit to be able to do that. So yeah, I like that you brought those things up about clarity of the mind is really what's important. Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like there's got to be something bigger than us, right? Like why do we want to get healthy at the end of the day? And for my client, right, it was that connection that she wanted to create with her son. Like, I want to be able to freely play around with him and not be out of breath. And so I feel like there has to be that vision for something that's beyond us, because when we are having those days, and we will have those days where you're like, you know what, screw it, like I don't feel like it, we can always go back to that place of like, okay, why am I doing this and who is this for? If we don't take care of ourselves now,
Yeah.
then we're going to pay for that in the long run. And then who's really going to pay for that is our family. Right. And so we talk so much about creating this generational wealth, right? We were so focused on, climbing the corporate ladder and being the best of the best. But like, what about creating generational health?
Awesome. That is awesome. Say that again. What about creating generational health? Yeah, that's it.
Right? Like, what are we leaving? Like, are we leaving diseases? Are we leaving, all of these things for generations to come, where we're not even giving them a chance to create maybe the life that they want to create, right? Because of
Yeah.
our actions and our impact now. So I mean, I
Okay.
think it's, yeah.
Well, look, we could talk for a lot longer.
Yeah.
And this has already gone longer than I thought it was going to go. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about. This is a big topic. But let's wrap this up, and we can leave out the energetic sex bit. But certainly, I want you to imagine for a moment you're talking to that young girl who would go off in the summer with your sister to your grandma's house, and tell us a little bit about what would you say to her now based on everything you know today?
Oh man, I gotta take a deep breath for this one. um yeah, that's a good one. um
Maybe just one thing that you would say she needs to know to avoid what's happened to you on your journey, where you've had this experience. Maybe she didn't need to avoid it. Maybe your message to her is everything's going to be okay. I mean, it could be as simple as that. But is there something based upon this conversation today that makes you think, yeah, there's one more thing I would say to her? What's that?
I would say you're loved. I think that's one of the most important things that we need to hear, especially when,
Yeah.
we're going through such challenging time, whether it's with our health or whether it's, a difficult situation at our job or at our family, right? Like whatever it might be. I think the message for me is you are loved. And
I
one
think
of the things
that's
that
an awesome way. Yeah, that's an awesome way to wrap it. Yeah, and maybe we unwittingly got to that point because we didn't realize that that was what all this was about.
Mhm.
That our own self-worth and our own self-esteem takes us into places where we end up wondering, how do we get here? And, asking ourselves, am I enough? Do I look good? What do other people think of me? And that kind of self-judgment and other people's judgment. But yeah, you don't need to, because there are lots of people that love you. Yeah. And I think that's true for you, Geta. And yeah, that's true for me too.
Yeah,
And yeah, we stay away from the people who don't display that as much and get close to the people who do. Yeah, that's
yeah,
a great
yeah.
way
And
to
I would
wrap
say
this up.
facts over feelings, right? Like you are loved, you are worthy, you are powerful, you are. I mean, think about it. We live in a universe with endless possibilities. So how is it that, we see beauty in everything else and then sometimes we don't see it in ourselves?
Yeah.
So the fact is, right, we are loved, we are worthy, we are all of these great things, but sometimes our feelings don't feel that way. So for me, it's always this mindset of, okay, let's look at the facts and let's put away, all of these feelings that are coming up right now, whatever that, might be.
Yeah. Well, look, I got a strong feeling you're going to be back on this show in the not too distant future. So thank you for everything we did today. For some of the people you watched through this, we're going to wrap up and say goodbye now, but I want to let you remind you that what we were talking here really about was yeah, how your career can derail your health if you'll allow it to, how your career can derail your intimate relationships. But there is an opportunity for you, based upon the information we went through, to actually take control of that for yourself again. And we have good examples for you. We are not perfect, and we shared that throughout, that we're still working on it, and it is still a journey. Yeah, I talked about it's okay to give up the donuts and the French fries, but you've still got to find out what works for you. And that's what I would leave you with on this, is that you are loved. That's what you're hearing from Genta here. You know that there is a most gorgeous life for you out there. So we're going to say goodbye now, and hope you guys get that on your way. But we'll leave you some show notes and some descriptions down below where you can get hold of Genta and you can reach out to her directly so that you can get everything you need from this point forward. Okay, we'll say bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks, James.
What an awesome video that was, and there is more for you. So if you want to learn a little bit more about how to take tools, strategies, tips, and tricks into your career so you can get to the next level for you, then I just want you to go and watch this video right here now. I'll see you over there.